Hi, I'm Francesc Campoy, and this is Just for Funk. So welcome to episode number 5, which is actually number 4 because I started counting from 0 because I'm a programmer. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to go back to what I did on episode number 1, which was a Go code review. Most people have asked for this, and actually I got a proposal from someone that gave me their code directly, not on GitHub, but on GitLab. And that's what we're going to be doing today. It's going to be getting that code into my machine. It's a Twitter client that basically allows you to filter a Twitter stream according to some hashtags and stuff like that. And it's completely ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go see the code working first, make sure that it actually works. And I think there's even tests, which is pretty amazing. And then we're going to start modifying the code to make it look better, be more maintainable, but still do exactly the same thing it's doing now. So let's get started. First, what it says is that, okay, so to get the code, you can do go get. So if I do go get that, I get the code directly there, and I can now access, I can go to that directory. How does that work? That is something pretty cool. There's a cd path variable. And that cd path variable actually points to my GitHub, to my go path /source, which means that I can go to github.com/campoy/to-do, for instance. That is one of my directories, but I can also go to gitlab.com, whatever, which is very useful. If you don't know about cd path and you're running on Mac or Linux, this is something that you should definitely do. Anyway, now we have the code, so I can do go install. And when I do go install, it generates a binary called tweets. And when I run it, it says, nope, you cannot run this because you're missing the tweets consumer key. Okay. Fortunately enough, Raphael, he's a good guy. He actually put in the documentation, this is how you're going to use it. So it says, okay, we're going to be using the Twitter statuses stream API that uses OAuth1, which is better though, I'm not going to start judging OAuth 1 or 2. They're not my favorite things in the world. Let's just say that. But anyway, we can create new tokens by visiting here and generating tokens. So we can go to my applications. Wait, what? Oh, apps.twitter.com. We can create a new application. I'm going to call it Hackabrod in honor of Raphael. Some stuff. Website, I'm going to go with actually something that exists. Twitter, callback URL. I don't really need one because we're not going to be having a not valid URL format. HTTPS. Again. Cool. Okay. So I don't need a callback because there's not going to be callback happening. I'm just going to use all the consumer keys and secrets and all that stuff to do the authentication directly from our side. So that should be easy. Okay, so the consumer key is that thing. So let's say consumer key is that thing. Actually, I could do tweets consumer key equals that, and then tweets. And now it says consumer secret is required. So let's see. Consumer secret. I don't see the secret. Where did the secret go? Oh, okay. So this is the secret. So I can do tweets consumer secret equals this and run it. Now tweets access token is also required. Your access token, create my access token. By the way, before I publish this, I will be deleting that application. So don't even bother trying to hack my account by using those codes because that will not work. But good try. Okay, so the access token is going to be this thing. So let's add one more. Tweets access token equals this. And now access secret is also required. And access secret is this one here. Okay, so this is working, and so let's try something dash dash help. Okay, so there's a flag called track that we can use to say what we want to actually track. So we can say dash track equals, let's say Golang. And normally, if anyone tweets anything about Golang, we should be able to see it. I don't see anything. Let's try something more popular. Like, I don't want to say Trump. Whatever. Let's try that. Okay, so yeah, it's working. We're basically seeing all the tweets coming from anyone that mentions Trump. To be complete, let's also do Clinton. And we also get a bunch of people talking about Clinton. And we can see that there's actually a couple cool things. All the hashtags appear in yellow. The handles appear in blue. And the URLs are underlined. Cool. Which is really nice. And I'm almost sure that this is actually done with Fatty's library. I think it's called Colors. And yep, it's done with Fatty's color library, which is awesome, by the way. Big shout out to him. It's an amazing library. Okay, so now we know that this actually works, which is cool. Let's see how it actually works. So I opened the code with Visual Studio Code, which is the tool that I always use. It's pretty cool. If you have not tried it, I really recommend it. I have all of these files here. Let me make it a little bit bigger. There's emp.go, then there's a license. That is good. I like licenses. By the way, it is MIT, so it allows me to modify it, which is good. Otherwise, this could be weird. Then we have a README, stream.go, stream test, and tweets.go. Okay, cool. What do I think about this? Well, to start with, since this is package main, I could expect to find a main.go. And this is not always the case. It's not enforced by the compiler, but I think it's a good practice to basically have an explicit entry point with main.go in package main. If it was a library, then tweets.go could be the entry point, because if there's more than one, normally the one that has the same name as the package and the directory could be the one. But in this case, I'm going to rename that tweets.go into main.go. So I'm going to move it from tweets.go to main.go. There you go. Now it's done. And I'm going to start going through this code. So we have this flag, which is the one that we saw that we can use to define what we want to track. Then we create a Twitter authentication, and we pass it to Twitter stream. Now, the thing is that Twitter authentication, so this is defined in amp.go. And this returns a Twitter auth, which is just a struct. Which is basically, it means that we want these 4 fields in Twitter stream. And Twitter stream, the only thing we do with Twitter auth is pass it to Twitter client. So I really feel like Twitter client should just get those directly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by removing that. So Twitter client doesn't have that anymore. And instead, what Twitter client does is, for now, it calls, whoops, get Twitter auth. Why is this complaining about? Oh, there's no T anymore. T error. If error is not nil, return nil and an error. So this should be returning an error too, because this can now fail, which means that this should be returning nil. Okay, so this is pretty much the same as we had before. We didn't change much. But now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and try to modify this code to be simpler. What it's doing is getting 4 variables from the environment and making sure they're not empty. So when you do load from env, it makes sure that they are not empty. And if they are, it returns an error. So first thing, that error, we don't really need a custom error for this. I don't think it's that important. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to do thumped error f that returns an error instead of a string. And the name is n. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of the error completely. We don't need it at all. We also have this Twitter authentication type. And Twitter authentication, it's just a struct with 4 fields. And if this was something that was important to be very performant, I could understand that we're using a struct. But in this case, I feel like a map will help us a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply drop this type and say that our type, our getTrueAuth, will return a map from string to string. Now the cool thing is that we are much more dynamic, and we can start doing things like this. I'm going to define a list with all the keys. So that's going to be a list with all the keys. And then I'm going to iterate over them. So range keys. And what I'm going to do is exactly the same as we were doing before, but now this is key. And this is a value. So if error is not nil, what we're going to do is we're going to set that in the map we're returning. So we need to create it first. I'm still going to call it T for Twitter, but that's not really that important. I'm going to create an empty map and say T of key equals val. Cool. And now all of this is already handled. So we can get rid of it. And we can return the map. And we're done. This is much simpler, right? Now, there's even more simplifications we can do. Right now, we're calling load from env and then checking that the error is not nil. The only possible error is when the string is empty, which means that really we're doing a check twice. So I'm just going to move this code here and say that we're going to get load from env of the key. And that's going to be our v. If something, so if v is empty, we're going to return nil and an error. And otherwise, we're going to set v here. So now we're doing basically the same, but with the simplification that we just check for the error once, which is better. What's going on? Oh, OK. And we can get rid of this function too. So now our env.go file is much simpler. It's just like 16 lines of code, really. And we could make it shorter if we put everything in one single line. But whatever. This is very readable, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of this code into Twitter client. So Twitter client now is going to not return that, but just use it. Cool. Now env.go. We don't need it at all, so I'm just going to delete the file. env.go. Goodbye file. Cool. OK, let's go back to main.go. So now main.go doesn't need to do this. It doesn't need to pass this. So there's nothing that can fail here. But this is weird, because if nothing can fail here, what are we doing, right? Twitter client can return an error. And if that error is not nil, we should do something with it. We should return it. So I'm just going to return that error. And actually, I'm going to add some information. Could not create authenticated. Could not create, let's call it Twitter client, which is really what it's doing. And the reason. OK, and now we should check that error there. So if the error is not nil, then actually, let me copy that thing that we had before. So if the error is not nil, we're just going to do exactly that. We're just going to print the error into the standard error and exit with code 1. Cool. I like this. I like main files that are very simple, very short, so you can easily reuse the rest of the code. And talking about that, I feel like this could help some refactoring, so we can reuse the rest of the code easily from other packages. So I'm gonna create a new folder, and I'm gonna call it Twitter. And in that folder, I'm gonna have all the other files: stream.go, streamtest.go. So now, stream here, the Twitter stream, just gonna be called stream, because we're gonna be on package Twitter. This should also be in package Twitter. And main.go will do twitter.stream. And we're gonna need to import gitlab.com/hackerprod/tweets/Twitter. Is that correct? There you go. So now our package is our main program is simply calling twitter.stream, and that stream is defining the package Twitter, which is now reusable. I'm going to rename this to client, because everything is in Twitter, so there's not much help on calling everything Twitter something. Now it's package Twitter, so a stream is a Twitter stream, and a client is a Twitter client. Okay, so what else are we doing? Cool. So we're calling clients.stream.filter, which will return a stream, a Twitter stream, and that could also fail, so it's returning an error. Rather than failing here and returning, we're just going to return the error as we did before. And in this case, we're gonna say could not start streaming because of that. Let me make it a little bit bigger. And then we get the demux. And this demux, what it's doing is basically every single time that there's a tweet that arrives through the stream, it will call handle tweet. And that is okay. Then, oh, and return nil. There you go. Because if everything works, we should say everything worked. Okay, so this will create demux handle chan. So this starts this starts sending messages from the message channel to the demux, and every single time there's a tweet, it will call handle tweet, which is exactly what we want. And then we wait for the Control-C. We wait for the Control-C by creating a signal, attaching it to sig in and sig term. If we actually get a message, we will say, okay, we're done stopping stream for keyword. And we're actually reading from that, so that's why we're waiting. And then we'll return stream.stop and return. And this is okay, but this actually is something very specific to how we're doing it. Imagine that you were to use this Twitter package in a different library, in a web server, for instance. That Control-C, probably not the way you want to handle things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return a type that then you can stop whenever you want. So the easiest thing is actually saying I'm going to return close, which is a func, and an error r, which is an error. And I think that is fine. If something fails, we don't need to do anything else. But otherwise, we're going to return string.stop without calling it, though. We're actually returning the value of that function instead, and no error. And then all of this can be moved outside. It will be moved to main.go. So now main.go will get, I think we called it close, though. Did we? Yeah, close. So close. And then I can do defer, call that function. So at the end of the main function, we will close the stream. Otherwise, I'm not going to do this. I don't think it's needed to print the error. Just exit. And stream.stop is now closed. But we do need to read from channel. So now our implementation-specific things like reading a flag from the command line or waiting for a signal to stop the job are in main, and the rest is actually in stream, which help us reuse that code. There's something that I'm not very happy with, which is we are printing everything to the output. And so you can see it here out. When we print something out is a global variable defined in the package stream. That is not something that I like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of it. And now there will be things that will not compile, but I'm happy with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to get the output as a parameter to stream. So io.writer. And that way this fprint will work again. And for the others, this doesn't work anymore. So that is a little bit of a problem. What we're going to do is we're actually going to define a new type. We're going to define a new type because there's a couple of ways to do this. One of the ways you could do this is basically handle tweet. You need to pass out to handle tweet. And you could do something like this. And handle tweet now should return the function that we want. So if we want a definition, you could say, given an out, which is io.writer, returns a function that does this. And then you can do return that function. And the body is the body of the whole thing as before. And this should work. It is not incredibly happy with it. I did something weird. Oh, I forgot one there. OK, so this could return a function. And the function is the type we want. So it is a function that receives a tweet and uses that out that is defined from the call here. Handle tweet out. So handle tweet out returns a function which has the type we want. And this is OK, and this is very inspired from currying user concept from functional programming. But I don't think this is the best way to do it in Go. I think that in Go, what we want to do is I'm going to define a type now. So I'm going to define a type stream. And this stream will be new stream. And will return a pointer to stream. And now I don't need to name this anymore. And now this stream struct will have an IO writer there. Well, let's call it out again. Probably we should rename it. Here, stream is a stream of tweets. So now what we can do is we can filter the whole thing, we can return the error, and we can also return the stream. And what is a stream? Well, I'm going to create it here. So it's a stream. And actually, S is a stream that has out here. And I'm going to return S. And it also has a reference to the stream we had before, which is tweeter.stream. So is that correct? Yes, it is correct. Oh, no, this needs to be a pointer. And define func as stream close is simply s.stream s.stream.close .stop closes the stream. And the other function we're going to define, so now on the main.go, you could do defer, so defer s.close. And this new stream. So you have pretty much the same idea, but now rather than calling a function that we return, we actually call close in the s. And this is not very happy because we need to pass the output or std out. There you go. So now all of this works, but we still have not fixed this problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that handle tweet is now a method of the stream. So I'm going to move all of this very high up here. And I'm going to define handle tweet as a method of stream. It receives just the tweet, as we did before. Cool. And we get rid of this line, and we get rid of the line at the end. And out will not be out, will be s.out. Because now we have the out from the stream. Perfect. So this compiles again. And if we go back to new stream, I think this is simpler. We create a new stream, and we register handle tweet as the function to be called for every tweet. Then we print that we're ready and return the stream. Once someone that is using is done, calls s.close. And how this is done? Well, signals, but that is not important to us anymore. Okay, let's talk about colors now. There's a bunch of them, and I think that there's a little bit too many of them, especially for green bold and hybrid bold. Hybrid bold is not used anymore because I removed the only line that was using it, so I'm just going to drop it. High green bold is used only once. So rather than having it as a global variable, I'm going to move it to where it's actually used. So high green bold is just this now. And I'm going to call it green. And so this is green. And now let's see this line of code, because this line of code is kind of weird. We are calling we're calling func sprintf to generate a string that we pass to green, to generate a string, to then finally print it into the output. And I think this is overkill. Because especially sprintfunc, there's also an sprintf func. And when we do sprintf func, all of a sudden the sprintf is not needed anymore. So we can do this. It could be awesome if the color library had an fprintf func, and then we could get rid of the whole thing, but it doesn't, and I'm fine with it. It's not such a big deal, really. Okay, so let's see how handle tweet is implemented and see how we can improve it. So handle tweet checks first if the tweet is retweeted or is quoted, and if it is, we just delete it, we just ignore it, we don't print it. Otherwise, we create a slice of pointers to modifiers, and modifiers apparently are URLs, hashtags, and user mentions. So basically all the things that are going to be highlighted somehow. And this code looks very repetitive, so I'm going to see how we can make this better. I feel like the start and end, it's repeated everywhere, and it's always indices.start, indices.end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new function, new mod. Actually, let's create it here. So in modifier, we can create func new modifier that rather than giving start and end, which are ints, we can just get indices, which is of type tweeter.indices. So tweeter.indices. Then the clear CLR, whatever that is, we'll see in a minute, but for now I'm just gonna pass that, exactly that. And then text, which is a string. And that returns pointer to modifier. So what we need to do is simply basically same thing as here. So create a modifier. Whoops, return that. Okay, so we're gonna change this to say this i.start, this i.end, and this is CLR, and this is text. Cool. So this starts to be pretty similar to what we want. So now we can modify these functions and say we're gonna pass new modifier of u.indices underline and u.url, and we can get rid of all of this underline URLs. I think that is pretty obvious, so we don't really need it. New modifier of h.indices yellow, and that thing from there, text. I forgot that right there. Yellow with that W at the end. And same thing here. The modifier of n.indices green and that. Cool. I think this is much better already. But let's see what yellow, underline, and green are, because we are defining them also as global variables. And I'm not very happy with that. So what I'm going to do is yellow, underline, and green, which are the ones we are using in those loops. I'm going to basically replace them with the value directly. But if you think about it, green, underline, and yellow, they look exactly the same regardless of what we're doing. And it's color new of something and then sprintfunc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check what is the type of that thing, attribute, and I'm going to pass that type to my function here. I'm going to call it attribute, and it's a color.attribute, and the CLR is, okay, so I just discovered that CLR is not clear, it's color. Cool. Anyway, I'm not gonna change the name for now, but for now I'm just gonna try to modify it so it still works. Okay, so color.underline can be replaced with this, color.yellow can be replaced with this, and color.green can be replaced with this. So we can get rid of the variables, and this still works. And this is very obvious. It's the indices, they're underlined for the URLs, they're yellow for the text, and they're green for the screen name. Cool. I actually like this. I'm going to rename something here because that CLR, clear, it's not what I think it should be. Instead, I'm going to call it sprint because that's really what it is. It's an sprint function. So let's change it. And let's see where we're using it. We're using it here, sprint, and that's it. Cool. Next step is try to understand this sort. It's sort.sort mod sorter of mods. That is very lots of sorts in there. Let's change the name of that. Create a type to sort modifiers rather than calling it sort modifier or mod sorter. It is better to call it by something. And by something in this case, since we are clearly ordering by start, let's call it by start. So these are by start, by start, by start. Why do we do this? Well, because now we can call sort by start of the mods, which is easier to read. Okay, the next step is we're going to go over all the text in the tweet, actually over all the mods, and apply them over the text. Tweet.text, tweet.text. Okay, so this is simpler to say this tweet.text. And if there's something to apply, we're going to modify things. on text. Otherwise, we don't need to modify anything, so not need for that else. In Go, if you have an else, that is almost a code smell. So if you see elses, think about how you get rid of them. Very often they will simplify your code, actually. Okay, so are there any modifiers that we need to apply? I don't think that is needed. 0, so we're gonna go over all the modifications and print this. Okay, so I'm gonna change the name of the buffer because I'm very special about things. I like to call it buff and like to define it as a pointer, because that way I can do fprintf to buff of that string. So we're printing from the beginning, or from where we were to the beginning of the thing to be modified. Then we're gonna print the result of printing the text using the sprint function we got in the modifier. So this will actually change the color or add underline. Okay, and buff.write string. So basically print the rest, print all the things that have not been modified at all. So I'm just gonna copy paste there. Buff.string. Cool. And I think that is important. Convert the strings to runes, because we're going to be working with runes, with characters that might be emoji and stuff like that. So it is important to take into account that this is not only slice of bytes, it's actually slice of runes, Unicode characters, which are actually bigger than just bytes. Cool. And to finish, we print blue bold. So let's do that too. Let's move blue bold to blue bold here. And just gonna call it blue. And call it blue here. Cool, so we are pretty much done, I feel. Okay, this starts to look like something that I could be happy with, but to make sure that it actually makes sense from the outset point of view, what I'm gonna do is check the result when I do godoc. Okay, that is the path, and I'm going to do godoc of that path. And we can see that there are type stream struct, which is stream is a stream of tweets. New stream creates a stream, returns a stream and an error. And we also have close, and that's it. That's everything we're exposing, which looks pretty good. That looks exactly like what I could expect to see on the documentation. Okay, so the last piece could be to actually run the tests. Go test. But the problem is that, which are actually in Twitter, go test, will not work because there's a bunch of things that we expect to have that I removed. So I'm going to try to see if I can fix it quick. So let's see the test. It's creating a tweet with a bunch of stuffs, and then checking that it is equal to this string. So, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically cheat. Get diff stream .go and see that this is how the types were defined, and just copy them there. Because having those variables here, I'm fine with that. Okay. Actually, is there more than one tweet test? No, there's only one test, so we can define it there. We need out. Oh, interesting. So what we're doing is we're actually cheating and changing new tweets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a stream that has stream is going to be nil, but out's going to be buff. So s buff is going to be bytes.buffer. And then we can call s.handle that tweet, and then check that s dot, so that buff.string equals got, and then we check that out, handle tweet, let's call it buff. Cool, so we fixed the test, and now go test. Cool, it passes, amazing. So now I will, now that this still test and it passes, I will send it to Raphael so he can merge it or not. We'll see. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was longer than expected, as usual. It took longer to edit than expected, as usual. And this time it was even worse because recording took forever due to changing studios and getting cameras and getting lights and all that stuff. And also recording a couple times wrong. I hope this time I got it right. I really hope so. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you thought about it. Let me know what you would like me to do next. And as always, thanks for watching.